Okay. Good morning, one and all. I specially welcome today's fifth session expert, Dr. Vaishali Sawant, madam, in this 1 week online faculty development program on research methodology organized by PVPIT Gurgaon. I also welcome all participants in this session. Now, I would like to introduce today's expert, Dr. Vaishali Sawant, madam. She has completed her BSc and MSc in chemistry from Shivaji University, Kolhapur. She has also completed B.Ed from Shivaji University. She has completed her PhD in chemistry from Shivaji University. Currently, she is working as associate professor in Department of Technology, Shivaji University, Kolhapur. She has 15 years teaching experience and 17 years research experience. She got various fellowship awards. In 2009 to 11, she got Senior Research Fellowship from CSIR New Delhi. In 2016, she got Science Academic Summer Research Fellowship for Teachers. Post Institute was Jadavpur University, Kolkata. In 2017-18, she got SERB's Overseas Postdoctoral Fellowship. Post Institute was National University of Singapore. She has completed 3 research projects which is funded by UGC, TQ and Shivaji University. Currently, she is handling 1 research project. She is guiding 4 PhD scholars also. She has published 29 international publications in Elsewhere, Essays, Ville, and Springer. She has presented paper in 21 national and international conferences. She is also working as a reviewer for peer-reviewed journals like Journal of Energy Chemistry Elsewhere, Essays, Sustainable Chemistry and Engineering Then she's also a reviewer for Journal of Electroanalytical Chemistry and Elsewhere, Journal of Material Science Springer, European Journal of Inorganic Chemistry Ville. She has life membership of various professional bodies like Society for Material Chemistry, Indian Crystallographic Association, and IST also. We are very lucky we got her valuable time for this session. In this session, she will guide us on research thesis writing and article writing. So, now I request Dr. Vaishali Sawant, madam, please start your session.
Thank you, Professor Lian, for giving nice introduction of mine.
Thank you, thank you.
So, Dr. Pankaj Aute, convener of this FDP, Professor Vani, and everyone present over today on this platform for this PDF FDP. A very good morning to all. I would like to take this opportunity to thank organizing committee of this FDP from PVPIT Budga for having me for this session. In today's session, I would like to share insights on how to effectively write a research article and thesis, which is a crucial part of academic and professional success. So, give me a moment for sharing my slides. Hope my screen is visible to. Okay. Thank you, sir. So, in today's session, I will cover three major points. That is, writing a research article, uh, submission of research article and review process, and thesis writing. So, let's start by understanding the key differences in a research article and thesis writing. So, research article and a thesis research article writing and thesis writing, though these are related as both these are a research report, but they are differ in various aspects as they serve different purposes. Like a thesis, as we know, thesis is a comprehensive document that is submitted in support of candidature of an academic degree, whether it is master's degree in the form of dissertation or a PhD degree in the form of thesis, presenting the author's research and findings. However, a research article, on the other hand, is a concise piece of specific key findings published in academic journals, aimed at sharing specific research findings with the scholarly community. So, if we consider the audience of a thesis or a readers for thesis or for research article, the structural aspect of thesis and research article, lengthwise and the depth of analysis, both these thesis and research article significantly differ from each other. So, thesis writing and article writing, uh, both these are crucial part of the academic and professional success. So, let's first focus on the research article writing. So, how we can effectively write a research article. So, whenever we conduct a research, or after if we have some documented things with respect to our research, sometimes it becomes very difficult for us to pen down at how very well we can write a research article or a research paper which can be accepted in one go for, because ultimately, see, when we do the research, our main aim or ultimate aim is to go for publication, right? And that too in a good journal, that too in a peer reviewed journal. So publishing in a reputed journal or peer reviewed journal not only advances the knowledge of the researcher in the field, but it also enhances the researcher's academic profile and career opportunities. So let's discuss how we can effectively write a research article. So typically, a research article has a journal structure, as you can see on the screen. A structure of research article includes these components, right from title, abstract, keywords, which can say that these are the preliminary information of research article. Then main components of the research article or the main text includes introduction, methods, result, and discussion. That means research article, or for that matter, any research report follows this IMRD pattern. That means introduction, method, research, and results and discussion. So this is the main part of the research article, and the end matter is conclusions, acknowledgements, references, and supplementary data. So each component of the research article in the structure plays a vital role in the research article. So what are the purposes of the preliminary information like title, abstract, and keywords? So these components make it easy for indexing and searching. So These components will help you to visualize or to reach to the readers. And that is why these components should be informative, effective, and attractive. So the main body of the research article includes introduction, methods, results, and discussion. But while writing research article, because see, research article has a limitations of word, has limitations of pages. So you should make your article as concise as possible. That means whenever you have some results, whenever you have some key finding, and if you want to convey these key findings to scholarly community or research community, while writing the research article, you must write it in concise way. That means if you have something to say, if you have something to convey to the research community, say it and stop as soon as you have said it. So it will help you to make the article as concise as possible. And then the end part of the research article, which includes conclusions, acknowledgements, references, and supplementary data. So for any kind of research article, irrespective of publisher or journals, this is the general structure of research article, which includes these 11 components majorly. Of course, there are some other components along with these components, but these are some most important components in the research article. So structure your article properly considering these components. Make sure each section of these article or the paper fulfills its purpose clearly and concisely. So while writing research article, though as we have seen the components of research article, these are the 11 components, main components of the research article, and it follows this sequence in the research article. Hmm? So of course it depends on the guidelines of the journal, but generally most of the journals follow this sequence for these components. But while writing your research article, so it is not necessary to follow this sequence. Hmm? But for presenting your research article, you must follow this sequence. And while building your research article, or when you write the research article, during the processing of writing or building article, uh, you can follow this sequence. That means, see, when we start writing the research article, we have some data with us, right? Some observations will be there, some results will be there, some measurements will be there, and these results and from conclusions from these results, we wish to convey to the scholarly community or research community through a research article, right? So it is very essential to write a research article effectively so that we can convince the publisher to accept our article. And that is why we must write our article effectively so that it can be accepted by the publisher, by the editor of journal in one go. So it is very important that we could build a nice article that will be accepted for publication. And for building this article or for while writing the article, you can follow this sequence. So first, prepare the figures and table, because see, when you start writing the research article, you have some data, you have some measurements, you have some observations, you have some analysis, and those analysis, those observations, those results, you can present in the form of figures, tables, charts, or graphs, right? So first prepare figures, tables, charts, and graphs. Then start from easy things. Start from the things which you have in your hand. So after preparing figures and table, you can start writing your research article with writing methods. Because methods, materials and methods, this is the part which includes the methodology, tools, techniques which you have used for conducting your research. So first write the methodology, tools, materials and methods. After methodology, write up the results. So whatever the observations, measurements you have obtained during your research, so write up these results. After writing the results, then write the discussion. After completing your results and discussion, then go for writing the conclusion. So write a clear conclusion. And once your methodology, result, and discussion along with conclusion is completed, then go for writing a compelling introduction. And when you complete the introduction, that means your rough draft of research article is ready with introduction, methods, result discussion, and conclusion along with figures and table. At this stage, you can write abstract for your research article. And after writing the abstract, then compose a concise and informative title for your research article. And then go for writing keywords. So keywords will help you for indexing your article. Likewise, title and abstract is also help you to index or to cite your article or to reach to the readers.
So this part is very important, that is abstract, title and keyword, to reach to the readers of your article.
And after writing these parts, then go for writing the acknowledgement, where you can acknowledge all the sources and people who help you in your research. And then write up the references. Rather, I would say arrange your references, because this referencing part, you must collect the references while writing your introduction, methods, result, discussion part. So at the end of the article, arrange your references. So this is how you can build your research article. So start from collecting the data in the form of figures, tables, or graphs, charts, and start writing your article with methods, that is methodology, materials and methods, then results, then discussion, conclusion, then introduction. And after your rough draft is ready, then go for writing abstract, title, and keywords. And in the end, acknowledgement and references. So this process you can follow while writing your research article. So let's talk about the components of the research article and how to write or what to write in these components. Okay. So as we have seen, the main components of research article, so it includes title, abstract, introduction, methods, results, which also includes figures, tables, and graphs, then discussion, conclusion, acknowledgement, and references. So these are the main components of any research article. And along with this, there are some other components which are nowadays essential while submitting your article to any journal, like highlights, graphical abstract, declaration of competing interest, or supporting information. Sometimes author contribution is needed. And of course, one more thing that is very important, which is cover letter, which will convince the editor for considering your research article for publication. So a research article should be layered. So your research paper or research article should be layered, because see, whenever we write a research article, our aim is to publish it in the journal. And why do we want to publish it in journal? So that our results or our key findings could reach the scientific community. And uh, so, keeping in mind the reader, we have to write our research article. And as not every reader wants the same level of details, that is why we must write our research article in layered format, like introduction, method, result, discussion, and even results and discussion. We can provide subheadings, and of course conclusion part, so that some readers will need only the readers are interested in your methodology or some tools which you have used for your research, or some techniques for data collection, or some tools for data analysis. So the reader can pick those points from your article. So that is why your article must be in layered form. So let's talk about these key components of the research article. So let's start with the title. Though, as we know, the title will be written at the end after writing abstract. But yes, this is the first part in the article. So any research article starts with the title of the research article. And we can say that the title page of any research article, it includes a title of the research article, then names of the authors, followed by the affiliations of all the authors, and of course there will be abstract. So title is an abstract of abstract, right? And a good title should contain a few possible words that adequately describe the content of the paper. So, in other words, we can say that title should be as short as possible. So, this title usually describes the subject matter of the article. Sometimes the article that summarizes the results is more effective, is more convenient. Hmm? So these titles should be accurate, unambiguous, specific, and complete. So in title of the research article, do not use rarely used abbreviations. Of course, common abbreviations you can use, but mostly avoid using the abbreviations in the uh, title of the research article. So here you can see there are different types of titles of the article. So some titles are descriptive titles, which will describe your research or your findings. Some titles are catchy titles, so which will attract the readers, and some titles are hybrid titles. That means those titles are descriptive and catchy as well. So here you can see I have presented two articles which are having different titles. So first title you can see competition between head to head and head to tail photocycloaddition a reaction in solid state, a case study. So this article, of course, this title is descriptive. That means it suggests what is included in your research article or what your research article is about. At the same time, this article is catchy, and you can see here the graphical abstract goes well with the title of the article. So this the title is hybrid one. That means the title is descriptive and at the same it is catchy also. This a second article where the title is copper complexes of hydroxy substituted hydrazino-carbonyl phenylbenzene ligands and heterocyclic co-ligands. This title is descriptive title or informative title, which suggests only about the article. So you can write the title of the article in such a way that it is attractive, it is catchy and descriptive also. That means it will summarize your results or it will convey the message which you want to convey to the research community through your article. So what the reviewers, when you, of course, when we write article, our main purpose is to publish it in journal, right? And when we submit it for publication in journal, so first one who reviews your article is editor. So what the editor and reviewer, after editor it will goes to the reviewers. So what editors and the reviewer look for is novelty of your research, and whether you have followed the guidelines, whether the article is within the scope of the journal. So these things will be seen by the editor, and what reviewer look for is the quality of your research. So what reviewer look for your title of the article is, does this title represent the research well, whether the whatever the message you want to convey through your research article is conveyed well through the title of your article. And the reviewers will also look for whether is it fair or does it deceive the reader as to the scope or conclusion of the paper. That means your article title should be relevant to your content in the research article. It should not deceive the reader. So it should convey the results or whatever the message you want to convey. The message should be conveyed clearly through your title. And the title of the research article should be as concise as possible, as short as possible. Then the next component is abstract. Though the abstract will be written after completing the rough draft of your article, this abstract is a important component in your research article, because a most commonly read section, this is the most commonly read section of the manuscript, as the abstract is freely available in electronic abstracting and indexing services. So you can say that this is the advertisement of your article, because whenever readers look for the research articles for reading, so they use these different databases like Science Direct or Google Scholar, and they use keywords for abstracting and indexing purpose. And the first thing that the reader read is title and abstract of your manuscript. So that is why you can say that this is the advertisement of your article. So make the abstract interesting and easy to be understood without reading the whole article. So when a reader or audience reads the abstract of your manuscript, it should be easy to understand the message which you want to convey or whatever the key findings you want to convey through the article. Those key findings or the message should be understood by the reader by reading the abstract without reading the whole article. So we can say that abstract is miniature manuscript. Miniature manuscript. So what should be included in the abstract? So the purpose of the research, that means a background of the research in brief, in one or two lines. Then you must include methodology, that means what type of study and what methods you have used. In short, again in one line. Then principal results and major conclusions. So these parts should be included in your abstract. So the abstracts are again of two types: structured abstracts or unstructured abstracts. Whether the abstract is structured or unstructured, it includes the same content, right? Brief background of the research, methodology, principal results, and major conclusion. But in some journals, the abstract is provided in clearly structured format. Like there will be clear cut components of the abstract, like introduction, methodology, result, and discussion part. But for majority journals, the abstract will be in unstructured format, but the content is same. Like I said, introduction, methodology, principle, and conclusion in brief. So abstract, when we should write the abstract should be written only after final draft of the report has been completed. That means introduction, methodology, research, results, conclusion. When we complete this part, then and then only go for writing the abstract. So what the reviewer look for in your abstract? So does the abstract state the key purpose and outcome of the research explicitly? That means the purpose of your research, that is a brief introduction or whatever background of the research, and the outcome of the research. So it should reflect in your abstract. The next component is introduction. Introduction of your research article. So this introduction part provides context to convince the reader that you clearly know why your work is useful. And why did you start or why did you conduct your research? That means the purpose of your research, significance of your research, and how and what you are going to conduct in the your research. So while writing the introduction of research article, be brief, because as you must consider the word limitation or page limitation of article. So while writing the introduction, write it in brief. Clearly address the following points, like the background. Background means background in brief. That means reason the authors conducted the study. So why there is need to conduct the research in the particular topic? What are the research gaps? That means what is the problem? So what problem you are going to address through this research article? Are there any existing solutions to the problem? If the solutions are existing, which solution is the best so far? And what is its main limitation? And what do you hope to achieve through through your research? That is the goal of the research. So these contents should be included in the introduction. So write in brief the background of the research, write about your problem which you are going to address. If there is any existing solution, give those solutions, the base solution, and then limitation. These 3 points are related to your literature review, because in research article there is no separate section for literature review. So along with introduction you can present the literature review in brief, not in detail but brief, but make sure that you will present the existing solutions, the best solution, and if there are any gaps or the limitations of the present solutions. So what reviewer look for in the introduction? So does your introduction gives the literature review, which is a clear picture of what is already known about the topic, the foundation upon which the current research builds, and hence the significance of the current research. So these content should be included in your introduction. After introduction, the next component is methods. So methods in this section, you must give the information about what did you do. That means in this section, explain what was done in simple terms. So describe how the problem was studied. You can include here the detailed information of the methodology, uh, the techniques, tools you used for data collection. So do not describe previously published procedures. If you have referred some procedures which has been previously published, of course you can refer them. So you can just simply mention that so and so procedure or protocol is referred from the previously reported, and you can give the reference, but do not describe the previously published procedure. Hmm. Include all the detailed information about your methodology, the methods and materials used for conducting the research. Identify the equipments or instruments which you have used, softwares which you have used, materials you have used for conducting your research. So these things should be included in materials and method section. So the methodology which you have followed for collection of your data should be described in this section. And this materials and method section may vary from study to study. It depends on the type of research you have conducted. So based on that, you can provide a detailed information about materials and methods in this section. And of course, you must justify the selection of materials and techniques. Why the material is selected, why this technique is used, why you use this protocol or the technique or tool for data collection, or for that matter analysis, data analysis. So this must be included in methods and materials and method part. So what the reviewer look for in the materials and method section? So are they sufficiently described to enable the experiments and data collection to be reproduced by another suitably qualified and resourced researcher? That means, see, in materials and method section, you must give the detailed information about how you conducted your research. That means detailed information about the tools, techniques, softwares, or the databases which whatever you have used for conducting your research, so that the other researchers who are suitably qualified and resourced, they can reproduce the results which you have obtained during your research. So that is why you must provide a detailed information about materials and methods. But of course, while writing these materials and method, do not describe the previously published procedures. After the methods, the next component is results. results with, of course, it is supported with figures, tables, graphs, and charts. So in results section, what we can include is what we have found during our research. So whatever the results, whatever the observations you have found during your research, this should be included in the results. So what is result? Results is the systematic presentation of your research findings in relation to research objectives. So you must follow a sequence in which the you have conducted your research while writing the result. So in this section, you can include all the observations, whatever the results. So main findings you can include in the result section. You can include findings from the experiments described in the material and method section. So you can include the measurements and fabrication procedures in the result section. So whatever the findings from the measurements and fabrication procedures which are mentioned in the method section. Then you can highlight the findings that differ from findings in previous publications and unexpected findings. So here you must include all your observations, all your result. Again, you must highlight the findings which are differ from the findings in previous publication, and for this you must have a comprehensive literature review so that you can compare your results with the results which are obtained previously. And of course you must include unexpected findings. So these content should be included in your results. So no interpretations or no comments. So do not interpret your results or do not comment on your result in this section. Just state what you have found. So you can include the results, no interpretation, no comments in the results section. Take a clear and easy to understand story. So of course you must write the results in the form of a story, in the form of sequence, in the form of systematic way, so that it will be easy to understand the readers. And of course the result should be structured. You can include subheadings as per your study. A description of finding may be complemented by limited number of tables and figures, graphs, charts that can summarize the findings. So in results, what the reviewers look for is, do these truly address the research objective as stated in the title? So whether the result section truly addresses the solutions for research objective or whatever of the research objectives as stated in the title, abstract and introduction section. Whether these results are necessary and are these results sufficient. So these points will be considered by the reviewer while reviewing your research article. And a good result section must be complemented, must be supported with tables, figures, graphs, and charts. So the figures, tables, or the illustrations are significant in the research article because, as we know, the figures and tables are the most efficient way to present the result. And as the saying goes, one picture is worth 1,000 words, and therefore you can include the pictures in the form of figures, table, graphs, charts, as the results are the driving force of the publication. So you should make it attractive, you should make it informative, And while including the figures and tables in the article, these figures and tables should be self-explanatory. So figures and tables should be self-explanatory means, so you must give the appropriate captions. So, and these captions of the figures and table should contain sufficient information so that a reader can understand it without referencing to the text. Hmm. While giving the figures and tables, provide footnotes, abbreviations. If you have used some symbols, then define those symbols clearly in the figure and captions of the figure and table. So the tables and figures should be self-explanatory. Hmm. So there should not be duplication of results described in the text or other illustrations. Like some data is given in text and same data is given in tabular form. So there is no need to duplicate the results in text and tabular form. So use the effective way in the form of tables, figures, charts, and graphs. So what the reviewers look for is, do these, that means results, present the data from the results in logical and readable fashion. Are the results clear? Do they contain too little, too much, or just enough details? So whether the figures tables included in the article, whether they contain too little information or too much information, or whatever the information given is enough for the research article. And whether the tables and figures aid the understanding of the core message of the paper. So you can include the limited number of figures, tables, charts, and graphs in your article in result section. So after result section, the next component is discussion part. So discussion means what the results mean. So in discussion section, so this is the most complicated yet important section of the research article, and that is why it requires more investment of the researcher. So what is included in research discussion? Summary of key findings from your results. So you can include summary of key findings of your results in the discussion section. Here you can include the interpretations of the results, whatever observations you have obtained during the research while conducting your research. So for those observations, for those results, you can interpret those results in discussion section, and you can draw inferences and you can include those inferences in discussion section. So this discussion section connects the various results to support the overall conclusion of the article in convincing way. And therefore, this discussion may include the findings from the, even findings from the other related studies that will support your findings or that will contradict your own research. And of course, you must acknowledge others' contribution to the field. That means you can support your results by referring them or by comparing those results with the results previously published, and you can support them with the help of citations, with the help of references. So it is also important to present and discuss the strengths of your study, whether it is about your study design, a novel methodology, or novel tool. So in discussion section, you can present the strengths of your results, whether these strengths are about study design, whatever the methodology or tools you have used, and the novel techniques you have used, and whatever the results, key findings, you can present in the discussion section. And of course, you must also discuss the potential weaknesses of the results or methodology you have used or alternative interpretations of the results. So all these parts you must include in your discussion section. That means in discussion section, what you can include is, first of all, summary of your key findings. And of course, in discussion section should be written in a logical way. Hmm? And it follows the trend as the results. So as you have presented your results in same logical form, you can present the discussion. And what you can include in the discussion? Interpretations and inferences, key findings. Hmm? You can compare your results with the previously published results. Hmm? If these previously published results supports your observations, even if those observations, previously published reports contradicts your research, you can also mention that. Hmm? And you can also acknowledge the contribution by the other researcher in the field. And of course, you must mention the strength of your findings, hmm, and weaknesses also. And here some general conclusion can also be included in discussion section. So in the research article, generally, for most of the journals, this results and discussion section is, or the results and discussions are presented in the same section as results and discussion. So you can present your results and discussion as per the guidelines of the journal. So if uh, as per the guidelines, the results and discussions are in the same section, you can present them in the same section in logical way. After writing a result and discussion, after completing the result and discussion part, then go for writing a conclusion, clear conclusions. Okay. So the conclusion also follow logical form from the discussion of the findings. So as a discussion will follow the sequence in which the findings have presented. That means in the sequence in which you have presented your results in same logical form, the discussions will be presented, and conclusion will also follow same logical form from the discussion. So what should be included in conclusion section? So what did we learn, and to what extent is it extendable to other system? So whatever the inferences or interpretations from your results, and from those interpretations and inferences you can draw some conclusions, and those conclusions you can include in conclusion section. So you can include how the work advances the field from the present state of knowledge. You can also recognize some shortcomings or any unresolved issues in this section. If there are some weaknesses of your results, or there are some unresolved issues, you can include those in conclusion section. And then you can suggest some future experiments and some forward looking perspective. That means the conclusion part, first you have to summarize some key findings of your research in the form of conclusions. Then you can include those things which you have learned, and in what extent those findings will be extendable or useful for other systems. Then, You can include how your work advances the field. You can include the shortcomings or any unresolved issues. And then finally, at the end, you can suggest some future experiments or some forward looking perspectives. So, this is how you can build the conclusion of your research article. And now your first draft is ready with introduction part, method, results discussion, and conclusion. After completing this part, introduction, methods, result discussion, and conclusion, then go for writing abstract. And after writing abstract, go for writing title, and then go for acknowledgement section. So acknowledgement section is also essential part of the research article, where you can acknowledge all the resources. So ensure those who help in the research are recognized, because see, while publishing a research article, uh, of course we give the credit to those who have contributed significantly in the form of giving authorship, right? But those who have helped you, but the contribution is not significant to give authorship, those people you can acknowledge in the acknowledgement section. So here you can include individuals who have assisted you with your study, including advisor, proofreader, typist, suppliers who have assisted you, but the contribution is not significant to give the authorship. So you can acknowledge them in this section. You can acknowledge all the resources which you have used. For that matter, if you have used some instrumentation or the databases or the softwares from the other institutes, so you can recognize those, you can acknowledge them in this section. So you must acknowledge all the resources that you have used. And all the, of course, all the sources of the funding used in research, whether these funding sources are from your own institute or from governing bodies, or from national and international funding agencies. All these funding sources should be acknowledged in the acknowledgement part. And finally, the last section is references. So this is, though this is the last section in the research article, it appears at the end of the article, but do it first. Do it first means while writing, while you build your research article, collect the references, because without good references you cannot write a good introduction. So while building your article, while writing your start from the materials and methods, results discussion and introduction. So at every stage you need to refer the articles or whatever the source of information. So collect those source of information, collect those references, and arrange those references at the end of the your article. So references are the first that shows how you know about the research context, hmm, your writing experience. So take care of it from the starting days. That means while right from conducting your research. So all the sources of information should be referred in the references. While the writing, while the collecting the references or mentioning the references, have relevant and recent references. Not necessarily all the references should be recent, but the relevant references, and use the most recent references so that it will reflect that the you are following the recent trends in your field. So include the recent references. Okay. provide enough information to the readers so that they can find the original work for themselves. In the reference section, you should list peer-reviewed journal articles, abstracts, books, that means whatever authentic resources you can refer, you can include in the reference section. While writing the references, of course, you must take some precautions, like do not cite too many homemade references, that means self-citation, avoid self-citation, avoid excess citations of publication from the same region, from the same journal. So these are some common practices while writing the references. Conform strictly to the style given in the guide for authors. So because the journals and publishers have their own guidelines for writing the references, so strictly follow those guidelines while writing the references. You can take the help of bibliographic management software such as Mendeley, Zotero, EndNote. Hmm. So these bibliographic management softwares are available, which you can use for managing your references. The common mistakes while writing the references are generally the formatting mistakes. So always follow the referencing style which is given by the journal guidelines. Number of references throughout the body of the text in the order in which they are first mentioned. So you can number the references throughout the body of the text, right from the introduction to discussion section, in the order in which they are first mentioned. So do not include the references in your abstract and even in conclusion. Of course, it is, if it is necessary, you can include the reference in conclusion, but generally do not include the references in your abstract section and conclusion section. Identify references in text, tables and legends by the numerals in square bracket. So generally, the journals from many publisher will follow the same trend, as the references will be presented in the form of numerals in the square bracket like shown in the screen. So some journals require references to be indicated in the form of superscript. So do not use abstract as your source of information. So when you refer some research article, do not use the abstracts as your source of information. So you must consult the full text of the article before you use that article or you use it as a cited reference. So you must avoid these common mistakes while writing your references. There are some referencing style, common styles like MLA, APA, Chicago, Harvard, and Vancouver reference style. But of course, the journals have their own guidelines for writing references. So do follow these guidelines for writing the references for the particular journal, for the particular publisher. For your understanding, there are typical formats of references. Though the way of presenting the references is different, but the content is same. Like for journal articles, because generally we use journal articles in the research article. The contents in the reference writing are, it starts with the names of the author, then date of publishing, article title, journal title, volume number, issue number, and page number. Hmm. So this content is included in reference. Of course, the way of presenting the reference is different, or the style in which the references are presented is different for different journals and publishers. But this is the typical format for presenting the references, like book chapters, journal articles, conference paper, technical reports, and internet sources. So for journal articles, authors, date of publication, article title, journal title, volume, issue number, and page number is important. For books, name of the authors, date of publishing, book title, publisher, city, and pages. So likewise, for other resources, the references will be presented in this form. So this is about presenting the references for the research article. Hmm. So along with the research article, so here the main contents of the research article are these. So right from title to references, total 11 components are there. Along with these main components of the research article, which builds your manuscript. So these are the contents which are included in your manuscript. So along with the manuscript, you will need, sometimes you will need supplementary material, or which is also known as supplementary information. So sometimes you have to provide supplementary information or supplementary material along with your research article. Hmm? And why there is need for supplementary information or supplementary material? So while writing your manuscript, of course there is a word limit or page limit. And there is a typical format of a manuscript. So if you have any data which does not fit into the main frame of the manuscript, so those data, you feel that data is also important, so you can include those data in the form of supplementary material or supplementary information. So data of secondary importance for the main scientific thrust of the article, like individual curves. For example, when a representative curve or a mean curve is given in the article itself, but still you feel that individual curve needs to be presented, then you can present those individual curves in the form of supplementary information. Like whatever the additional data that you feel is important or it should be provided along with the manuscript, those data you can include in the supplementary information. The data that do not fit into the main body of the article, like if you have some information in the form of audio, in the form of video, which cannot be included in the main body of the research article, you cannot include those data in the form of supplementary information. So this supplementary information or supplementary material is not a part of printed article, but will be available online with the published paper. And this supplementary information must be related to article. It should support the article. So those information which is related to article and that supports the research article should be included in the supplementary material. So along with supplementary material, there are some other components like keywords, highlights, graphical abstract, cover letter, declaration of conflict of interest, list of potential reviewers, author contribution, and author biography, in which keywords, highlights, and graphical abstract, these three components are important, which will help you for indexing your article. And of course, cover letter is also important, so that you must write the cover letter in such a way that it will convince the editor to consider your research article. Okay, so keywords, what are the keywords? So keywords will help you to index your article. So you can give 5 to 6 keywords that will help you for indexing your article. So it will help to find the relevant papers via search engine. So here you can give the specific research area, specific keywords about the method, about the material, about the key findings or application. So such keywords you can select, 5 to 6 keywords you can select for your research article. Hmm? So it will help to reach the reader, and more you reach the reader, more you will get the citation. That means the keywords will help you to not only just index your article, but will help you to get more citations for your article. Highlights also plays the same role as the keywords. So here highlights list key messages from your research. Hmm. So the highlights will be in the form of 5 to 8 bullet points. Hmm. They consist of short collection of bullet points that captures novel results from your research, as well as new methods that were used during the study. Hmm. And it also helps to increase the discoverability of your article via search engine. Hmm. So more you reach the readers, more you research will be read and more citations you will get. Graphical abstract, of course graphical abstract is optional part, though for some journals it is mandatory to provide the graphical abstract, but not for all journals. So what is graphical abstract? Graphical abstract is pictorial form of the abstract. So in this section, the it should summarize the contents of the article in concise and pictorial form designed to capture the attention of wide readership. Hmm. And it uses, sorry, its use is encouraged as it draws more attention to the online article. So generally, graphical abstract does not appear in the actual research article, but it appears in online article only. Hmm. So this is about graphical abstract. Along with these keywords, uh, then highlights and graphical abstract. The other components are like cover letter, declaration of conflict of interest, list of potential reviewer, and author contribution. Now nowadays these components are mandatory. Of course, cover letter is mandatory. Declaration of conflict of interest is also mandatory, and nowadays list of potential reviewer is also mandate, and author contribution is also mandatory. While writing the cover letter, make sure that you can convince the editor to consider the research article, because the journals receive a number of thousands of articles and it is difficult to choose the article. So you must write your cover letter to convince the editor that your article fits into the scope of the journal, and the key findings from your research are worthwhile to publish in the form of research article that are novel and publishable in the research article. So write the convincing cover letter to the editor. Hmm. So these are the components of the research article, and this is how you can build your research article for publishing in the reputable or peer-reviewed journal. So once your draft is complete, then you must check the article so that you can fine tune your article. So after your draft is ready, then check for these things. So first of all, check whether the terms used in the article are consistent throughout. So some concepts or terminologies which you have used in the article, those terminologies or the concepts, those terminologies should be used consistently throughout the article. Hmm? Do the numbers in abstract match numbers in the text and table? So whatever the results you have mentioned in the abstract in numerical form, those numbers check whether those numbers in abstract matches well with the numbers in the text and tables. Do the citations in text matches the references? So whatever the citations which you have given in the main body of the manuscript, they matches with the reference list. Are the syntax and grammar acceptable? So for that matter, you can use the language and grammar assistance once your draft is ready. Superscripted references, because for some journals guidelines, the references should be given in superscript form. So superscripted references, if the superscripted references are given, so these references should go outside the punctuation placed at the end of the sentences, like this. Hmm. Use inclusive and non-offensive language. Hmm. Be mindful with the sentences, the length of the sentence and structure of the sentence, and even the whole article. Hmm. So while preparing the draft, make it double spaced draft. And of course, while submitting, you can follow the guidelines of the journal. Hmm. And even for the font and other formatting points, you can follow the guidelines of the article. But for the figures and graphs and charts, use Arial font or Times New Roman font, so that the text in your figure is clearly visible. Use bigger fonts in the figures, charts, and graphs than you think that you will need. So these points you must consider after completing your first draft. And in writing process, you must follow this process. First, write a draft, then rewrite it, read it, give it to your supervisor for review. After reviewing by the supervisor or your colleagues or your uh, guide, then receive the feedback, and whatever the feedback, accordingly revise your research article, and then your research article will be ready for the submission. Hmm. So this is about writing a research article and building a research article. So if you have any questions about this, your questions are welcome.
Is there any question from audience? Please ask.
Okay, then we'll move to the next part of this session, which is submission of research article and review process. Okay, is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam.
Thank you. So once our article is ready for submitting to a journal for publication, the next step is you must find a right journal for publishing. So while finding the right journal for publishing article, so you can consider some points like a publisher. So choose the good publisher. As we know, there are many publishers, a few of them are having peer-reviewed journals like Elsewhere, IEEE, Springer, Wiley, Taylor and Francis, and there are many other publishers which publishes the articles in the different fields, And there are many publishers which publishes articles in specific fields like science and technology, engineering. Likewise, for example, this IEEE publisher, this publishes the articles which are related to engineering and technology specifically. And the other publishers, Elsewhere, Springer, Wiley, Taylor and Francis, they publish the articles from different fields, various fields. So first you choose the publisher for your article. Hmm? Then you can consider the scope of the journal, whether your article fits into the scope of the journal. Hmm? And then you can go for the journal metrics like impact factor, site score, quartile, tiers. Hmm? So likewise, by considering these facts or journal metrics like impact factor and site score, you can choose the right journal for your article. Hmm? So as you know, impact factor and site score, these are related to citations for the articles received for those journals. Mm. Even quartiles and tier, these are also somewhat related to citations, but not limited to citations, but the quality of the article, quality of the journals, and the scope of the journals. Mm. So considering these points, first you must consider the scope of the journal, you must consider the audience or the reader by keeping in mind the reader's expectations, scope of the journal, and then publishers, and of course the journal metrics, impact factor, site score, quartile, snip score, SJR. Likewise, so considering these journal metrics, you can choose the right journal for publishing. And if you are unaware with the journals, different journals from the different publishers, you can use the journal finders. So there are different journal finders are available which can suggest you the right journal for your article, which includes master journal list. So this you can use, which is supported by Web of Science. So it will suggest you the right journal for your article. Hmm. Then there is Elsewhere's own journal finder system is available. So you can search for this Elsewhere's journal finder in search engine, and here also you can find a suitable journal for your article. Then Wiley also provides a journal finder search engine where you can find the suitable journal for your article. Um, uh, and I think even Springer also provides the journal finder, but I don't know if still it works. But of course, this master journal list, Elsewhere journal finder, and Wiley journal finder, these are there which will suggest you the suitable journal for your article. What you need is title of your article or abstract of your article. So if you provide the information about your abstract or title in the search engine, you will find a right journal for your article. So it will give the list of journals, and from this list you can again choose the suitable journal considering the publisher, scope of the journal, and of course journal metrics. So this is how you can find the right journal for your article. So once you decide a journal which is suitable for your article, then we submit the article to the journal. But before submitting the article to the journal, we must read all the guidelines for the authors and make the changes accordingly in our research article as per the guidelines from the journal. Okay. So whatever the guidelines given for the writing article, about the sections of the article, hmm, about the subsections, about the way in which you can present the sections and subsections in the article, how you can present the figures and tables. If there are limits of words, you can accordingly update your manuscript, which will fit into the guidelines of the journal. If there are limitations for number of figures or tables, you can accordingly manage your data in your article. So before submitting the article to the journal, carefully read all the guidelines from that particular journal, and if needed, make the changes in your article accordingly. Hmm? And then your article will be ready for the submission in the journal. So typically a journal follows a peer review process. So here on the screen you can see the peer review process in the Wiley publisher, and generally the process is same for most of the publishers. So first thing is to we have to submit our article to the journal, and now there is editorial managerial system which is available for most of the Scopus Index journal, uh, where you can submit your articles. Of course there are some publishers who have their own managerial system, but for most of the publishers and journals there is a common editorial managing system through which we can submit our articles, research articles, right? So when we submit the research article, of course we need all the contents or components that we have discussed earlier. So we need a manuscript, which is in a structured form as per the guidelines of the journal. We need cover letter, we need abstract, we need keywords, we need highlights. Of course highlights and graphical abstract, these are optional. But if needed, as per the journal guidelines, you can keep ready those highlights and graphical abstract. Of course this declaration of conflict of interest is also mandatory. Cover letter is mandatory. If supplementary information is there, then you must keep ready the supplementary information. If author contribution is mandatory, you must keep ready author contribution. You can choose the terms for author contribution from the journal guidelines, where all type of contributions are enlisted. So you can choose those from the journal guidelines and keep all these things ready, and then submit your article to the journal. Once you submit the article to the journal, this article will goes to the editor, editor or the group of editors of the journal, and the first reader of your article is editor. So it should convince editor as well as reviewers. Your article must convince editor as well as reviewers. So when it reaches to the editor, editor will look for the scope of the journal and whether your article fits into the scope of the journal. Then the editor looks for the novelty of your research, whether the article is original work and the novelty of your article. So based on that, editor will decide whether to go for review process, or if it does not convince the editor, if article is not within the scope of the journal, or if it lacks the novelty, or for that matter even the if article does not follow the formatting structure and guidelines of the journal, editor will right away reject your article. And most of the articles are rejected for these reasons. First reason is the novelty of research and the scope of the journal. So it is very essential to find a suitable journal, or to find a right journal which suits your article. Hmm? So you must submit the article to the journal which has the scope. Your article has the scope within the journal, because for most of the time the articles will be rejected because they are not within the scope of the journal. So editor will right away reject the article. The other reason is the formatting and structure of the article is, the guidelines of the journal are not followed, and of course novelty. So these are the reasons why editor will right away reject your article. But if editor is convinced with your article, then editor will send it to reviewer. Hmm? And it will invite two or more reviewers. So for peer review process, minimum two reviewers will be there, and of course more than two reviewers can be can review the article. So editor will invite the reviewers, and if reviewer accepts the invitation, editor will send your article to the reviewer. Reviewers will assess your article, and they will comment on your article. They will give the feedback to the editor. So decision will be made by the editor. Ultimate decision will be made by the editor. So reviewers will give the feedback about the article. If reviewer will assess your article critically, and they will give the comments. If your article is passed by the reviewer, if the reviewer is convinced with your article, they will give the feedback in positive way or in negative way. That means if the article is having enough novelty and presented well, the reviewer will assess it, and according to reviewer, if the article is publishable, then they will give the feedback to the review editor. Hmm. So this feedback can be in the way that the article will be accepted, or article can be accepted after revision. So reviewer can suggest some revisions. So if reviewer suggests revision, the editor will send the article back to the author for revision. And then author, once receive this article for revision, author will revise the article and again it submit to the article, and same procedure will be followed, same cycle will be followed. And the editor will send it to back reviewers. If reviewers are convinced with your feedback, then reviewer will accept, and reviewer will give the feedback to the editor, and editor will give you the decision in the form of acceptance. Hmm? And once the article is accepted, then it is sent to the production team, and production team will uh, complete the formalities and proofreading, and then article will be published. But if reviewer is not convinced with your results, then they can give the feedback that the article is not acceptable. Hmm? So it will be, the feedback will be sent to review editor, and editor will reject the article based on the feedback from the reviewer. Hmm. So generally this process is followed by all most of the journals. And while following the process, the articles will be reviewed in blindfold manner, that is singly anonymized or doubly anonymized pattern. Like the reviewers are not known to author, and author is not known to reviewer, which is called as two-way blinded process. In some cases, reviewer knows the author, but authors don't know the reviewer. And in some cases, the process is open. But in peer review process, single blindfolded or double blindfolded process is used. So this is the peer review process for the publication. Hmm. So the decision on your article is made by, of course, it is made by the editor. So your article, when you submit your article after a reviewing process, either your article will be accepted, it will be rejected, or it will be revised. So the rejection, will be in the two form: without external referee reports. That means editor rejects your paper right away after submission of article to the journal. And the reasons, like I said, the reasons are: article is not within the scope of the journal, guidelines are not followed, and lacks of novelty. So these are the reason for most of the cases uh, for the rejection without referee reports. And sometimes the rejection is based on the reviewers feedback. Hmm. Revision. So after reviewers feedback, if the feedback is a reconsideration or resubmission of the article after major revision, that means there are chances for acceptance of your article after major revisions. And third decision is acceptance. So the acceptance can be without changes. So your article is accepted without changes, which is a rare case. So in most of the cases, reviewer will give some suggestion to improve your article. And in other case, the acceptance article will be accepted with minor changes. So you have to make the changes and you have to revise your article, and it will follow the procedure again. When your article is in revision process, that means your article is accepted with minor correction, or will be reconsidered, or reconsidered for publication with major correction. In both cases you can revise your article. So you must carefully consider the referee's comments. So in this case, the editor will send back the article, your article, along with the comments from the reviewers. So you must carefully consider the referee's correct comments, and then you can decide on to make the changes suggested by the reviewer. And you can also decide to not change the um, article or made those changes, but you need to give the convincing arguments for changes that are not made. And while preparing your revision, so revise your manuscript as per the comments which are given by the reviewers. Highlight the changes which you have made in your manuscript as per the suggestions given by the reviewers. And you should make the changes in the correction or in the manuscript, hmm, point by point, by giving the response to all the comments from the reviewers. So accordingly you can change your manuscript, you can make the changes in your manuscript. If you are not convinced with the reviewers comments, you can opt to submit it, or changes which are not made, but you must give the convincing feedback or argument for not making the changes. And this response, because once you submit your revised article, so accordingly you can revise your article and then resubmit or submit your revision to the editor. So editor will then send it back to the reviewers. So responses may go back to the referee, and therefore you need to convince both editor and reviewers. Because this process is not a private conversation between author and referee. So there is editor, reviewers, and the author. So try to work out your answers to the reviewers in the revised manuscript, so that the reviewers will convince to the comments which you have responded, all the comments you have responded. So in this way you can revise your manuscript. Hmm. And after revision, if the reviewers and editor is convinced, then your article will be accepted for publication. So this is how this submission and review process works. Hmm. So at every stage, carefully make the changes or the build article, so that the article will be published in the journal successfully. So this is about writing a research article, submission to the journal, and review process. So let's move towards the next part of this session, which is thesis writing. Hmm. So, like I said, the research writing and thesis writing, both these are writing a research reports, right? So they are related, but they differ from each other, as the purposes of writing thesis and purpose of writing research article is different. Audience is different for thesis and a research article. The structure of thesis and article is different, and the length wise and the depth of the analysis is also different. Um, so let's start with the thesis writing. So what is the thesis? So thesis is an extended written treatment of the subject, and as we know, this thesis is a mandatory part for the fulfillment of a degree. Hmm? So for partial fulfillment of the degree, whether it is master's degree or a, uh doctoral degree. Hmm? So in the form of dissertation or thesis, you have to submit it for your fulfillment of the degree. So this is mandatory part of the academic degree, and it is written by the candidate for an academic degree. Hmm? And here you have to follow the guidelines of the university or institute. For research article, you have to follow the guidelines of the journal to which you are going to submit your article. Hmm? So the main components of thesis, hmm, of course, as the thesis is also a research report, so there will be some components which are common in thesis as well as in research article. That is the main text, main body of the thesis, which again follows the pattern of IMRD. That means introduction, methods, result, and discussion.
You can share your questions in chat box also. If there are any questions, then after completing the session, you can ask.
Yes, ma'am. You're audible, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Give me a moment to share the list slide. Is the screen visible?
Ma'am,
Visible,
yes.
ma'am.
So for was let's continue with thesis. Yeah. So like I said, the thesis writing and research article writing differs in different ways as the purpose of thesis writing and research article is different. The audience is different. The structure, length, size, and even text of analysis for thesis and research article writing. But um, the main components contains some of the same components, the common components like introduction, thesis and article, brief introduction, materials and discussion section. But the main components of the thesis can be divided as title page, acknowledgement, table of content, summary, or abstract of the thesis, bibliography, and appendices. So these are the main components of the thesis. So I will not go into the details because most of the part we have discussed while discussing about the article writing. But when we zoom in on the main text of the thesis writing, so we should see how the thesis will look like. So see, thesis is divided into chapters. So it is parted into different chapters, while research article is parted into the chapter. So the thesis, which is parted into the chapter, will start with chapter one. Generally, we are related to introduction. Chapter two is related to review of the literature. However, in case of research article writing, the literature review, there is no separate section for literature review, and a brief review is included in introduction section itself. But while writing the thesis, you must give a comprehensive introduction to the thesis. And third chapter is materials and methods. Hmm. Fourth chapter, you can actually divide your research or results and find key findings of your research into different chapters as per the study type, or as per your study you can part into different chapters, like 3 chapters or more chapters. So from chapter number 4 onwards, the chapters will be your actual experimental chapters. And the chapter n plus 1, that means after experimental chapters, the last chapter will be general discussion and conclusion. Hmm. So see, in chapter 1, 2, and 3, the introduction, literature review, and the materials and method part, which we have discussed in research article writing. But in case of thesis writing, it is more elaborated. Hmm. And from chapter 4 onwards, the experimental chapters are there. And when we zoom in the experimental chapter, into any experimental chapter, this experimental chapter also follows the same trend of IMRD. That means introduction, materials, results, and discussion. So each of your experimental chapter should start with brief introduction about that research, then materials, methods used, observations, that means results and discussion, and finally conclusion. That means
That means in experimental chapters, you can include what did you do and why did you do. That means brief introduction, background, scope or significance of your research. How did you do? That means how you conducted your research, which includes the methods and materials. What did you find means what are your observations and results, and what do your result mean to you, and why. It means discussion, your interpretations and inferences, and what new knowledge have you extracted from your experiment. That means conclusion part. So each of your experimental chapter should be structured accordingly. So let's talk about these components in brief. So I will not go into the detail as most of the part we have discussed. So in thesis, there is a title page, which is also known as cover page. So the cover page, you should present it as per the guidelines of the institute or university. So mostly it includes the research title, that means title of your research or PhD research, then name of the researcher with their position and the institution or affiliation of your supervisor, and the year of the publication. That means it gives important information. What is the title of the research? Whether the research is submitted to which institute, who is the scholar, supervisor, and of course the year of publication. So this information is given on the cover page, which is followed by acknowledgement. So in thesis title page, after some certificates, it followed by acknowledgement, where you can acknowledge all the people who have contributed in your research in significant way. And you can also acknowledge all the resources of funding used in the present research. Hmm. And of course, all the resources which you have used during your research. Hmm. And this acknowledgement is followed by table of content, that means index of your thesis, which is followed by list of figures, tables and graphs. So if you have included some figures, some charts, some tables, some graphs in your thesis, you can make a list of these tables, figures, graphs and charts as per the chapters, and you can include this list after the table of content. Then you can include abbreviations and glossaries, um, which you think it should be provided. Then the next part is summary of finding, which you can also say that the abstract of your thesis. So summary should be written only after final draft of thesis, because it is a kind of abstract of your thesis. So it should be written after the completion of writing thesis. What should be included in summary of finding? So a brief description of about your research problem, main objectives, what are your objectives, a a place of study if the your research is region specific, you can include the place of study. Description about methodology, that means the type of study or methods, tools, techniques which you have used in brief. Hmm. The key results and major findings, and finally the sentence about the conclusion. So it should be written in brief. Then so the introduction part, article also, the same content is included in introduction chapter of your thesis, but it is elaborated because there is no word limit or no page limit for the thesis. So you can elaborate the concepts in the introduction. So what should be included? What is the purpose of introduction? So purpose of introduction should be to set sufficient background to allow the reader to understand and evaluate the results of the present study. That means whatever your research, without needing to refer the previously reported topics. Hmm. So introduction should provide the rationale for your present research. So it should provide rationale for your present research. introduction is to move from general information to the specific information. That means from known information to unknown information. So what should be included? So your introduction is organized to move from general information to specific information. So it should include sufficient background information to establish the context, the relevance, or the nature of the problem or the purpose of your study or your research. So what is known, it should be given in the first paragraph. So origin of the research, some terminologies, concepts. So you can give the information about this in first para. Then the importance of the problem and the unclear issues. That means what is unknown. So here you can provide the importance, significance of your research and the gaps or unclear issues you can include here. Then it follows the rationale, hypothesis, main objective and purpose of the research. That means in the introduction part, so origin, hypothesis, main objective and purpose of the research should be included in the introduction. So of course you can mention here the solutions you have achieved for your research problem, but no detailed literature review is expected in introduction section, but there is a separate chapter dedicated to this. So in chapter literature review, in this section you can discuss articles previously published uh, and which will help to explain why the current study or why your research topic is of significant scientific interest.
So, in literature review, you can also mention where has others' work has fallen short.
What are the holes in the research? The means the gaps in the research and why it is important to fill those gaps. So you can include the articles by one here. You can include the articles, research articles, books, book chapters, and other resources or sources of information in the literature review. And these sources or articles can be referenced by one or two or always there in the text using your finger. So here I provide cited literature review references. So when you are citing the article, if the article has only one author, you can cite the article with the name of the article. Means you are citing author by the first name and take care. You can mention the name of the content here and overview. Like this, you can cite the article in the literature review. And it is acceptable and encouraged by the author for this particular reference. To cite a reference, you can use any of the articles or more references. So while citing the references or objective, remember that this section serves to justify your study. That means whatever the literature you are using to support your article, you have the responsibility to read the literature. So you can use references here. Then the next chapter, that is chapter 5. In this chapter, you can include the information about the methodology which is used to conduct the experiment. So detailed information should be provided. So this section should include data collection techniques, procedures for data analysis. Uh, you can include the controlled system which you have used, and you can highlight the critical steps and precautions taken during the conduction of the research. Hmm. And you must justify the selection of material and techniques. So give the detailed information about your methodology, materials, and methods or tools and techniques so that the readers can read the results. Then next chapter is your chapters. So you can part it into two or more chapters as per the study and as per the results you have observed. And while writing these chapters, experimental chapters, again you can start with the brief introduction, hmm, short material methods, and result and discussion. And while writing the result and discussion, again we have already discussed while discussing about research article writing, but here you can describe your results, or you can mention all the results elaborately, because there is no word limit or the page limit, and you can provide more information. Hmm. So the systematic presentation of your findings in relation to the research objective is a crucial part, and the results of the measurements, fabrication procedure. Here you can describe the specific trends, significant effects, similarity in the results. If the results, your results contradict with the previously reported results, you can mention it. You can mention it, the exceptional results. You can mention the limitations of your result finding. So description about the finding may be complemented by the number of figures, tables, and charts, of course. And while this including this figures, charts, you must take the precautions. Like same data should not be presented in the text and figures. Hmm? Data presented in the table should not be simply stated without describing the trend or making comparison or highlighting anomaly. So while presenting the data, you must take care that you present it in logical manner, and you must describe the trends or comparisons or the anomaly, exceptions or limitations. All these must be included in result part. Unusual trends in the data should not be uh, so they should be included in the result part. So figures, tables, graphs, these are not self-explanatory sometimes. So it should be self-explanatory. Then discussion, again the whatever the results, accordingly those results you can interpret in the discussion section. You can make the inferences. So a detailed description of the results and key findings you can include in the discussion section. So it is important to present and discuss the limitations of your study. Some general conclusions may be included in discussion section, and how your results are compared to the results, the previously published results, or the predictions of the others. All this information must be included in discussion part. And the next part is conclusion part. Important statements you can include in the conclusion section. Here you can share new observations, new interpretations, and new insights that have resulted from the your research work. Here also you can include the background knowledge that your research work. Readers may suggest any interesting other avenues. If there are any other interesting avenues, you can add them in the discussion section. Are there ways in which your work could improved by future researcher? So if there are any alternative methods which could achieve the better results than the results you have obtained. So you can mention those future perspectives in the conclusion part. And what are the practical or broader implications of your research? All those you can mention in the conclusion section. And in the conclusion section, we have already discussed while discussing about research article. So of course, references is done at the end, but you should start collecting the references right from the methodology, and then arrange it at the end, and do follow the guidelines of the institutes, mm, and other guidelines. Here you can see some of the referencing styles, mm, MLA, APA, Chicago, Harvard, and and of course, institutes also provide the guidelines for presenting the references. Ultimately, you have to follow the guidelines of the institute given by the university or the institute for presenting the references. And finally, the last component is annexes or appendices. So annexes should contain any additional information which is needed to enable the professionals to follow your research procedures and data analysis. So those information which is not included in the main thesis, you can include in the form of appendices. So for example, data analysis which are not included, or which does not fit into the form of thesis, those information can be in the form of appendices. Hmm. So tables referred to in the text but not included in order to keep the report short or in the format. So you have to include it in the appendices. So at the end you can include the annexes or appendices. So this is about writing the thesis. Here are some references for your understanding and improving your skill of writing. So you can follow these references for improving your writing skills. And thank you for patient listening. I hope you gain some knowledge about writing research article and thesis article, writing thesis through this session. So thank you for patient listening, and I'm happy to answer your questions if there are any questions.
Is there any question from audience? Please ask. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, madam, for giving us guideline about how to write thesis and research article in right path. And you have tell us how to find the right journal for publishing, and uh, how to work means peer review process. So thank you so much. On behalf of PBIT Budgaon, I extend a really hearty vote of thanks to our expert, Dr. Vaishali Sawant, madam, who spared her time with us from her busiest schedule. So once again, I thank you to Vaishali ma'am. So I request all participants to give feedback. Bani sir will share you feedback link on the WhatsApp group. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam, and thank you, Vani sir.
Thank you, madam.